You ever notice how silence can be louder than words? How someone who once looked you in the eyes and said they needed space now can't stop checking your story? How someone who swore they didn't care starts showing up where you used to go? It's wild, isn't it? You move on, or at least you try to. You start healing. You start breathing again. And suddenly, the avoidant who once pulled away begins to miss you. But here's the thing. They'll never say it. They can't. Because for an avoidant, missing you isn't a feeling they share. It's a battle they fight. They don't express it. They suppress it. They don't call you to say they're thinking of you. They sit in silence, replaying moments they can't admit mattered. Inside their mind, there's chaos, guilt, confusion, longing, all fighting for control. See, when you were there giving them your heart, they felt overwhelmed. You were too real, too close, too much emotion. And their instinct was to run, to build walls, to escape what felt unsafe, even though it was love. But once the dust settles, once you're gone, once your energy disappears from their world, they start to feel something terrifying: absence. And absence is something avoidants never prepared to face. They thought detachment would bring them peace, but instead it brings silence. And in that silence, the echo of your presence becomes deafening. That's when it hits them. The way you used to laugh, the calm in your voice when they were stressed, the way you made them feel seen. Something they secretly crave but can't accept. And here's the truth most people never understand: avoidants don't miss you because they suddenly found courage. They miss you because reality finally got louder than their fear. They miss you when they realize your love wasn't the problem. Their avoidance was. But they'll never say it, because saying it would mean vulnerability. It would mean admitting that they cared, that they lost something meaningful, that they pushed away the one person who actually tried. So they stay quiet. They scroll through your pictures. They watch your stories from fake accounts. They tell themselves they're just curious, but deep down they know what it is. They miss you. They miss the safety of your energy. They miss the version of themselves that existed when you were around. They miss the emotional warmth they told themselves they didn't need. But here's what's even more powerful. The moment you stop chasing them, the moment you stop feeding that emotional loop, something inside them wakes up. Because the one thing that shakes an avoidant more than love is loss. And when they feel that loss, when they realize you've truly detached, not in anger, but in peace, that's when their missing you becomes unbearable. That's when they start to panic silently. That's when they start thinking, did I just lose the only person who actually saw me? So today, we're diving deep into the psychology, the emotion, and the hidden truth behind this silence. What happens inside the avoidant mind when they start missing you, but can't say it out loud? What makes them suddenly care when they once claimed they didn't? And how you can understand that this isn't about your worth. It's about their fear. Let's go deep. Because once you understand why they miss you, and why they'll never admit it, you'll stop doubting your impact, and start reclaiming your power. It always begins the same way, in silence. The same silence they created, the same silence they once found comfort in. But now it starts to haunt them, because for the first time that silence doesn't feel peaceful. It feels empty. And that emptiness, that's you missing from their world. An avoidant doesn't start missing you right after they pull away. No, in the beginning they feel relief, freedom, space. They tell themselves, finally, I can breathe again. They convince themselves that detaching was the right decision, that this emotional distance is what they needed all along. But that's the illusion, because the moment they walk away from real emotional connection, they walk right into the one thing they've been running from their entire life, themselves. At first, they distract themselves. They bury their thoughts in work, in friends, in hobbies, sometimes even in new connections that feel safe because they're shallow. But avoidance is like an emotional debt. It always comes back with interest. And when those distractions fade, when the noise settles, they start to feel something they can't label. That uneasiness, that discomfort, that strange ache, it's the beginning of missing you. See, avoidants don't miss people the way most do. It's not sudden, it's not obvious. It's subtle, like water seeping through cracks in a wall. It builds slowly, almost invisibly. It begins with tiny flashes, a smell, a song, a quiet evening that reminds them of your energy. They try to shake it off. They tell themselves it doesn't mean anything, but it keeps coming back, stronger, louder. And here's the truth. An avoidant starts missing you not because they suddenly feel brave, but because you stop trying. The moment you stop reaching out, stop explaining, stop rescuing them from their own emotional void, something deep inside them wakes up. For the first time, they realize you're no longer orbiting around them. You've pulled your energy back. You're gone, not to punish them, but because your soul needed peace. That's the shift that rattles their nervous system. Avoidants rely on the unspoken certainty that you'll always be there. Always forgiving, always waiting. But when your silence replaces your effort, when your calm replaces your chasing, it sends a signal that pierces through their defenses. Their subconscious starts whispering, "What if they're really done this time?" And that's when fear turns into longing, because now the avoidance inner system is experiencing something it was never trained to handle, loss without control. They begin to replay moments in their mind, not because they want to, but because their emotional memory won't stop looping them. The night you comforted them when they were anxious, the day you looked at them with understanding instead of judgment, the moment you told them, "I'm not going anywhere," and they didn't believe you. Now they remember those words differently. Now those moments hit harder because they finally understand what they lost: safety. You were safety, not comfort, not convenience, emotional safety. And when they realize that, missing you isn't optional anymore. It's inevitable. But don't mistake this for readiness. Just because they miss you doesn't mean they're ready to return. Avoidants don't move toward what they miss. They stay frozen between desire and fear. They'll check your profile but won't text. They'll ask mutual friends about you but pretend they're just curious. They'll scroll through your old messages and stop right before typing something. That's their way of reaching out without actually reaching out. Inside, though, the emotional storm is real. Missing you brings up everything they've buried: shame, regret, attachment wounds. The same reasons they pushed you away are now the same reasons they can't admit they want you back. Their pride says, "Stay silent." Their heart whispers, "Say something." And they get stuck in between, torn by the war between love and fear. This is where you must understand your power. The fact that they miss you and can't express it means you touched something no one else ever reached. You broke through their walls, even if they're pretending you didn't, and deep down, they know it. They just can't face it yet, because admitting they miss you would mean confronting the truth they've avoided their whole life. That connection doesn't destroy them, fear does. And until they face that truth, their silence will be their only confession. They'll never say, "I miss you." But in their quiet scrolling, their subtle reactions, their sleepless nights replaying your laughter, their actions will whisper it louder than words ever could. That's how you know the avoidant misses you, not when they come back, but when they finally realize what your absence really feels like. When an avoidant starts missing you, their first instinct isn't to reach out, it's to run from the feeling itself. Because for them, missing someone means vulnerability. It means needing someone. And needing someone feels like danger. Understand this: avoidance grew up learning one message loud and clear: don't depend on anyone. They were taught, directly or indirectly, that love equals risk, that closeness leads to pain. So when they start to feel that ache of missing you, their subconscious immediately flips into defense mode. Their mind says, "Don't go there. Don't feel that. It's not safe." That's why they can't tell you they miss you, because saying it out loud would mean they're emotionally exposed. And for them, exposure equals weakness. To you, saying, "I miss you," might be simple, human, honest. But to them, it feels like standing in the middle of a storm with no armor. It's terrifying. So instead of reaching for you, they reach for control. They bury themselves in distractions or even in denial. They'll tell themselves they don't care. They'll rewrite the story in their head. They were too emotional. I needed space. It's better this way. But deep down, behind that mask of calm detachment, there's chaos. Their heart is screaming what their mouth won't say. Their thoughts become haunted by your energy, but they won't allow themselves to show it. Because here's the truth: an avoidant doesn't know how to feel safely. Their nervous system is wired to equate love with loss, closeness with suffocation. So when they start missing you, that longing collides head on with their fear of vulnerability. And fear always wins, at least at first. You have to understand how deep this runs. When you loved them, when you reached for them, they weren't just reacting to you. They were reacting to every memory of emotional danger they ever felt. The parent who wasn't emotionally present, the caretaker who ignored their needs, the moment they learned that love could vanish overnight. So when you got close, they didn't see safety. They saw risk. And when they miss you now, they're not just missing you. They're missing the feeling they once couldn't handle, being truly seen, truly understood, truly loved. But their instinct is to shut it down. They compartmentalize it, bury it under logic, and tell themselves, I don't miss them, I just miss the routine. They rationalize their emotions to avoid feeling them, because the moment they allow that truth to surface, the truth that they actually miss you, it threatens their entire identity as someone who doesn't need anyone. That's why they keep quiet. That's why they scroll through your page and stop right before liking something. That's why they think about texting you but can't press send. Because deep down, they believe that expressing love equals losing control. They want connection, but they fear dependence. They crave closeness, but they're terrified of rejection. So what do they do instead? They turn missing you into a secret ritual. They replay memories in their head like a movie only they can watch. They visit old conversations to remind themselves of what once felt real, but they won't reach out because that would mean vulnerability. And vulnerability to an avoidant is like walking through fire. Here's the paradox that tortures them. They push away the very person they miss. They silence themselves to avoid pain, but that silence becomes the very thing that hurts them. They think not talking keeps them safe, but it only isolates them more. And as time passes, that silence gets heavier. Every unspoken word adds weight to their heart. Every missed opportunity builds regret they can't admit. They begin to sense that the wall they built to protect themselves has become their prison. But they can't break it, not yet. Because breaking it would mean facing their own emotional truth. And that truth is this: they didn't push you away because you were too much. They pushed you away because your love was too real, and real scares them more than loneliness ever could. So when they miss you, and trust me, they do, they'll hide behind silence, behind pride, behind control. Because for an avoidant, saying, I miss you, would mean tearing down years of self-protection. It would mean trusting that love won't hurt this time. And they're not ready for that, not until their silence hurts more than the risk of being honest. Until then, they'll keep missing you in private, hoping you somehow feel it without them ever having to say a word. When an avoidant starts missing you, something powerful begins to shift, not just in their thoughts, but in their entire emotional chemistry. Their body, their mind, their heart, everything enters conflict, because what they feel and what they allow themselves to feel are two completely different things. It begins with denial. They feel the tug, that familiar ache in the chest, that sudden thought of you out of nowhere, but they immediately push it away. It's nothing, they tell themselves, just a random thought. They don't realize that thought is actually the start of their emotional mind waking up. Their nervous system is trying to remind them this person mattered. Then comes confusion. They don't understand why you're still on their mind. They might even get irritated at themselves. Why am I thinking about them? It's over. I wanted this space. But here's the truth. Missing someone doesn't obey logic. It's the heart rebelling against the mind. And for an avoidant, that's terrifying. Their whole identity revolves around control, independence, and self-sufficiency. So when their heart starts craving the warmth of your presence again, it threatens the very foundation of their emotional defenses. They start overanalyzing. They replay your last conversation, searching for closure that never came. They think about how you laughed, how you touched them, how you understood them without words. And it unsettles them, because deep down, they realize that your connection wasn't ordinary. You reached a part of them they didn't even know existed. You didn't just touch their emotions, you touch their wounds. That's when guilt starts creeping in. They remember how they pushed you away when all you wanted was closeness. They recall the cold replies, the withdrawn energy, the way they minimized your effort. And it hits them that you were the one person who didn't give up right away. But now, you're gone. You stopped reaching. You stopped chasing. And in their silence, guilt becomes the shadow of your absence. And yet they still can't express it. Because their guilt doesn't translate into action. It turns into self-protection. They'll tell themselves, they probably moved on. It's better if I don't reach out. They'll convince themselves they're doing the mature thing by staying silent, when really they're just scared of rejection. Because for them, rejection isn't just no. It's confirmation of every hidden fear they carry, that they're unlovable, unworthy, and safer alone. So instead of reaching out, they retreat deeper into their mind. They might start checking your social media at night. They'll notice who comments on your posts. They'll watch your stories but pretend not to care. Every little thing you do becomes a silent trigger, a reminder of the life they lost because of their fear. Emotionally, they start oscillating between two extremes. Some days they feel strong, detached, logical, pretending they don't care. Other days it hits them out of nowhere. A scent, a song, a memory, and suddenly they're drowning in longing. But instead of letting it move through them, they freeze. They suppress. Because feeling deeply is unsafe territory for an avoidant. It's the emotional quicksand they've avoided all their life. This creates emotional burnout inside them. Their mind keeps trying to maintain control while their heart keeps breaking the rules. That tension between wanting you and fearing you drains them. They become restless, distracted, emotionally unavailable even to themselves. They might throw themselves into work or meaningless distractions, but nothing really silences that inner pull toward you. Because no matter how much they try to forget you, the energy of connection doesn't fade just because they want it to. And this is where it gets intense. When they finally realize that you're not chasing anymore, their fear of losing control flips. The same independence they once craved now feels like isolation. The freedom they thought would bring peace now feels like punishment. That's when their emotions start to crack through the walls. They might start reminiscing. They might scroll through your old messages. They might even draft a text and delete it. That's their inner conflict playing out in real time. See, for an avoidant, missing you becomes an invisible addiction. They crave your energy but can't admit it. They want your presence but can't handle it. They replay your warmth while pretending they're cold. It's a silent suffering, the kind that no one sees because they've mastered the art of looking composed while falling apart inside. And the hardest part for them, they realize that you were never trying to trap them. You were just trying to love them. But now their pride won't let them say it. Their ego won't let them reach out, so they carry that weight quietly. They suffer silently in the same solitude they once thought would save them. Because deep down, missing you isn't what breaks them. It's realizing that you were the one who saw their soul, and they pushed you away anyway. It always happens quietly. You don't announce it. You don't post a big statement saying you've moved on. You just shift. You stop checking your phone every hour. You stop waiting for their messages that never come. You start sleeping peacefully again. You begin to glow differently, lighter, freer, grounded. And that's when it hits them. The avoidant who once swore they didn't need you suddenly notices your absence, not as silence anymore, but as transformation. You're no longer the same person who used to chase, explain, and hope. Your energy has changed, and energy doesn't lie. At first, they don't even understand what they're feeling. They just sense something's off. The dynamic they were used to, you pursuing, them pulling away, has disappeared. That pattern gave them a sense of control. It made them feel emotionally safe because they decided when to connect and when to withdraw. But now that control is gone. They check your page. You look calm, grounded, maybe even happy. And that terrifies them because deep down, they always believed you'd stay emotionally available no matter how distant they became. You were the constant, the emotional anchor, the soft place to land when their world felt heavy. So when that anchor moves away, When you start focusing on yourself, they feel the emotional ground crumble beneath them. And here's what happens psychologically. An avoidance nervous system is built to protect them from emotional dependency. But when you start healing, their protection system backfires. The very distance they wanted now triggers abandonment anxiety, the very feeling they thought only needy people experienced. Now, they start experiencing the same fear they once projected onto you, the fear of being forgotten, replaced, left behind. They'll never admit it, but your calm confidence begins to haunt them. They can't understand how you're not chasing them anymore, and that confusion slowly morphs into obsession. They start checking your online status, looking for signs of someone new. They start wondering, are they seeing someone else? They might even tell themselves they don't care, but the tension in their body says otherwise. Because for the avoidant, seeing you move on isn't just about losing you. It's about losing control of the emotional story. When they were distant, they were the ones in power. They could rationalize their choices. But now they're watching you do something they never expected. You're detaching without hate. You're not playing games. You're not begging for closure. You're simply done. And that emotional peace you now carry, that quiet strength, exposes something deep within them. They realize you never wanted control. You wanted connection. You never demanded dependence. You offered presence. And they pushed that away for safety that never existed. So now their longing intensifies. But it's not the kind of longing that makes them text you immediately. It's the kind that gnaws at them quietly, day after day. They'll scroll through your old photos, reread your texts, maybe even replay your voice notes, not to relive the past, but to feel something real again. But they'll still hold back. They'll stop themselves from reaching out at the last second, convincing themselves it's too late. Yet every time they resist, the ache grows stronger. That ache is the truth trying to break through the walls. The truth that they miss you, that they pushed away the one soul who truly saw them. And here's the irony. The moment you stop chasing, that's when they start chasing in silence. Not physically, but energetically. They start thinking about you before sleep. You appear in their dreams. You cross their mind at random times. That's their subconscious trying to reconnect. Even while their ego stays silent, they might even test the waters. A random message, a vague emoji, a casual check-in, something small to see if you'll still respond. Because in their heart, they're wondering, would they still care if I came back? But they'll never say it outright. Pride won't let them. Fear won't let them. So they suffer instead. And that's the unspoken reality. When an avoidant sees you reclaim your peace, they start to see what they lost with new eyes. They finally realize you weren't chasing them to control them. You were chasing connection, love, healing. But they were too afraid to receive it. Now, they sit in silence, watching you evolve into the person they once pushed away. The one they secretly wish they could become, someone emotionally brave, someone free. And though they may never say it, deep down, they start to understand something profound. They didn't just lose a partner. They lost a mirror, the reflection of the love they were too afraid to give themselves. So when you move on, don't think they don't notice. They notice everything. They just can't handle what it shows them, that you were never the one who was too much. They were the one who couldn't handle enough. When an avoidant starts missing you, their heart wants to come closer, but their fear won't let them. So instead of reaching out directly, they do something else. They find indirect ways to feel close to you. To you, it might look like random coincidences, but trust me, there are no coincidences here. It begins subtly. They start showing up online around the same time you do. You post something, within minutes they've viewed it. Maybe from a fake account, maybe from their own. They'll scroll through your old pictures late at night, not to judge, but to feel something familiar again. That's their quiet form of contact. They can't say, I miss you, so they watch you instead. You see, for an avoidant, observation becomes a substitute for connection. It's safer. They can feel your energy from a distance without risking rejection. They'll replay your voice messages or your saved chats, not because they want to analyze them, but because hearing you brings them comfort. It's their way of being close without actually being vulnerable. Sometimes they'll even mirror your energy. If they see you posting something motivational or self-loving, they might post something similar, not to copy you, but to send a signal, I'm changing too. But they'll never admit it's about you. They'll frame it as self-growth, even though deep down, it's you who sparked that change. And when they start seeing you glow differently, maybe you're smiling again, maybe your energy feels lighter. Something inside them stirs. That's when they begin what I call emotional orbiting. They'll hover around your world, liking something once in a while, watching your story but never commenting, showing up near places you used to go. It's like they want you to notice their presence, but not too much. It's their way of saying, I'm still here, but I can't say it out loud. Inside their mind, the dialogue is constant. Should I reach out? What if they don't respond? What if they've moved on? And every time they think about texting you, fear paralyzes them. So they go silent again. But the silence isn't peace anymore. It's noise. Some avoidants try to reconnect through accidental contact. They'll find an excuse, maybe a question about something irrelevant, or a casual check-in like, hey, how have you been? But they'll mask it as friendliness. They'll test your tone first. If you seem warm, they'll open up slightly. If you sound indifferent, they'll retreat instantly. They crave reassurance that it's safe to care again. Others try to reconnect energetically. They might start working on themselves, reading about attachment, reflecting on their patterns. Not because they've suddenly become enlightened, but because your absence forced them to confront their truth. They realize, quietly, that you weren't just another person. You were the trigger that exposed their emotional walls. And here's something few people understand. An avoidance way of reconnecting isn't about words. It's about presence. They might start showing up where you once went, hoping to accidentally run into you. They might reach out through mutual friends just to hear how you're doing. They'll never admit it, but they're trying to feel close again. Without exposing their heart, it's a psychological balancing act between longing and fear. Every step forward is followed by 2 steps back. They'll come close emotionally, then retreat the moment they sense vulnerability. That push-pull dance isn't manipulation. It's survival. It's their way of saying, I want to connect, but I don't know how to feel safe doing it. Inside, they replay scenarios. What they'd say if they had the courage, how they'd explain why they pulled away. Sometimes they even draft messages they'll never send. Whole conversations happen in their mind that you'll never hear. And every unspoken word becomes a small weight on their heart. Because the more they avoid, the heavier missing you becomes. But the paradox is this: the more they secretly try to reconnect, the deeper they miss you. And the deeper they miss you, the more trapped they feel by their own fear. It's like watching a person trying to open a door while holding it shut at the same time. What they don't realize is that their silence doesn't protect them, it punishes them. Because in trying to avoid rejection, they end up rejecting themselves. In trying to stay safe, they end up lonely. And the very person who could have helped them heal, you, is now the one they can't bring themselves to face. So they settle for shadows of connection, a story view here, a post like there, an accidental mistaken text that wasn't really a mistake. Those small gestures are their unspoken love letters, the only way they know to say, I miss you, I just don't know how to come back. And while the world sees them as cold, detached, unbothered, deep down, they're carrying a quiet storm of emotions they can't name. Because for the avoidant, reconnection isn't a simple text. It's a silent confession they're too scared to make. At first, when the avoidant pulls away, they think they're protecting themselves. They convince their mind that distance equals peace, that silence equals control, that avoiding pain means avoiding loss. But as time passes, that illusion starts to break down. Because here's the truth: you can suppress emotions, but you can't escape them. They don't disappear. They just hide, and eventually every suppressed emotion demands to be felt. For the avoidant, that moment comes quietly, in the middle of a random night, or during a song that sounds a little too familiar, or when they catch a glimpse of someone who moves like you did. That's when it hits them. The realization that missing you isn't temporary. It's not a phase they can distract away. It's something deeper, something that lives in their chest now. At first, they'll fight it. They'll drown it in distractions, work, friends, hobbies, gym, new people. They'll tell themselves they're fine. But every time they try to connect with someone new, they'll find themselves comparing that person to you. The way you laughed, the energy you brought, the peace you carried, and no matter how much they try to replace you, they can't replicate the connection you gave, because you weren't just someone they dated. You were the mirror that showed them who they really were, and who they were afraid to be. And that realization is painful. Avoidants don't like facing pain. They've spent their entire life avoiding it. So when they start feeling it, really feeling it, it shakes them to their core. They start questioning everything. Why did I push away the one person who actually saw me? Why did I run when all I wanted was to be loved? Why do I keep sabotaging my own happiness? Those aren't easy questions to face. And that's where regret begins to grow. Not loud, but heavy. Not dramatic, but relentless. They remember the moments they took for granted. The small things you did that made them feel safe. The times you reached out and they stayed silent, thinking they were in control. Now they realize that silence cost them something priceless, real connection. That's when the emotional awakening begins. They start seeing their patterns clearly for the first time. The walls, the fear, the running, the detachment. And they realize they've been fighting the very thing they always wanted: closeness. It's ironic, isn't it? The avoidant, who fears love because it feels unsafe, ends up craving it the most when it's gone. They miss your energy, your patience, your understanding, not because you filled a void, but because you touched a wound they didn't even know existed. Regret for them isn't just about losing you. It's about realizing that they were the reason love slipped away. It's the painful awareness that they had a chance at something real, and they let fear make the decision for them. That regret begins to change them slowly. They might not reach out, but inside they start to soften. The same walls that once protected them now feel suffocating. They start to see how loneliness isn't safety. It's a self-made prison. And sometimes that's the moment where transformation begins. They start reflecting more, reading more. They might even start therapy or open up to someone for the first time in years. Because losing you didn't just hurt them. It woke them up. It made them realize that love isn't something to fear. It's something to learn. But here's the paradox. They may never tell you this. They may never send that message. They may never confess how much they think about you, because avoidants process silently. Their pride, fear, and guilt often mix into one powerful cocktail of hesitation. So they carry their regret quietly. It becomes a whisper in their heart that follows them wherever they go. They'll smile in public, laugh with friends, maybe even start something new, but every quiet moment brings them back to you. Because the truth is, when an avoidant misses you, they don't just miss you. They miss the version of themselves they were when they were with you. The version that felt safe, understood, and seen. And no matter how far they go or how long they hide, a part of them will always know they didn't lose you by accident. They lost you by choice, and that's a pain that time doesn't erase. So even if they never say it, never show it, never admit it, they'll always carry your memory as the turning point. The moment they realize what love could feel like and what fear took away. And while you've moved forward, healed, and grown stronger, they're left facing their own reflection, wondering what life could have been if they'd only let you in. That's not punishment, that's awakening. Because sometimes the greatest consequence of avoidance is realizing too late that what you ran from was exactly what you needed most. There comes a moment in every story of pain when you stop asking, why did they leave? And start asking, why did I stay? It's the moment you stop waiting for closure and start becoming it, when you realize that their silence wasn't rejection, it was redirection, because what you were chasing in them was already inside you. All along, you were the source of love, consistency, and peace. You were not the one who ran. You were the one who stayed, who showed up, who loved with depth. And that kind of heart doesn't lose. It evolves. When an avoidant starts missing you and never says it, you have to understand their silence isn't your failure. It's their unfinished lesson. You were the mirror they weren't ready to look into. You awakened something inside them they weren't prepared to face. Vulnerability, connection, truth. And when they walked away, they weren't rejecting you. They were avoiding the part of themselves that feared being seen. You didn't lose them. They lost the chance to be loved by someone who meant it. And that realization should not break you, it should crown you. You see, their regret might come late, but your growth started the moment you stopped chasing, because in the silence, you found yourself. You started healing the very wounds they couldn't handle. You learned to love yourself without needing validation. And that shift, that quiet internal transformation, is the real victory. Because one day, they'll look back and realize the love they ran from became the love that made you unstoppable. That's not karma. That's alignment. And maybe, just maybe, one day they'll reach out, not because they want to rekindle, but because they finally understand what they lost. But by then, you'll have changed. You'll have outgrown the version of yourself that begged to be seen. Now, you stand tall, grounded, peaceful, radiant, no longer seeking love from someone afraid to give it, because you've become what they couldn't be, emotionally free. And that's the power of walking away with self-respect instead of resentment. So let this be your reminder. When an avoidant starts missing you but never says it, it's not your job to fix them. It's your moment to rise. Because their silence speaks volumes, not about your worth, but about their wounds. Let them wrestle with the ghosts of their own avoidance. You move forward, you evolve, you love again, deeper, wiser, stronger. Because in the end, your greatest revenge isn't them missing you. It's you no longer needing them to. If you made it this far into the video, thank you. Because that means you didn't just listen. You felt it. You've lived through the silence, the confusion, the pain of loving someone who couldn't meet you halfway. And still you're here, growing, healing, rising. That's not weakness. That's strength most people never develop. So I want to remind you, you are not hard to love. You were just loving someone who didn't know how to receive it. And one day, you'll look back and realize that everything you went through was preparing you for the person who won't flinch when you love deeply, who won't run when things get real, who won't make you question your worth, because they'll see it instantly. Until that day, keep your heart open, but your standards high. Don't chase what avoids you. Don't beg for energy that drains you. And never dim your light just to make someone else comfortable in their shadow, because you're not here to be tolerated. You're here to be cherished. If this message spoke to your soul, take a moment, breathe, and remember who you are. Then hit that subscribe button, because this community is for people like you. The ones who feel deeply, love bravely, and rise stronger after every heartbreak. You're not alone in this journey. Together, we're turning pain into power, silence into self-worth, and every goodbye into a grand beginning. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay strong, stay grounded, and never forget, you are the peace they'll spend years searching for.